Hey, loves, I'm your host, Sincerely Sarita, and you are tuned in to Happy Hour on WURD, the best place in Philly to get uplifted and empowered. Today is Wednesday, July 8th. Shout out to all the folks joining us for Happy Hour. All of you who are tuned in on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming on wordradio.com, Word TV via Facebook Live, and the free Word app, which is available in the Apple app and Google Play Store. So make sure you go download that. And if you are tuned in over on Word TV, you already know the deal, okay? Go ahead and share the live stream, start a watch party, whatever floats your boat, okay? All we need to make sure is that when it comes to happy hour on WURD radio, you know that the more the merrier, okay? It's Wellness Wednesday, so if you haven't already, take a moment to do something good for your health, for your body, for your mind, for your soul, for your peace, y'all, because folks be trying it. They be trying it. Life be trying you. Try. It's not even Thursday yet. It's not even Thursday. I don't know about y'all, but it's not even Thursday yet. And life be trying it. So, you got to make sure you do what you can to protect your energy, and just to keep showing up with the best of intentions, and always, as much as possible, in the spirit of gratitude, of service, of I would hope, for lack of anything other, of just humility and unity, because we need that now more than ever. Like we really can't afford any kind of splintering, whether it's in family, community, workplace, whatever it may be. Like we just really can't afford that as like humanity, but also definitely within the Black community. It's just not the time. Not the time for us to be tearing each other down. It's not the time for us to be attacking one another. It's not the time for us to be destroying one another. There never really is a time for that. But one thing I do believe is that, yes, things do have their time and their season and their purpose. But in this moment, we need all the goodness. We need all the strength. We need all the love. We need all the forgiveness. We need all the reconciliation. We need all of that right now, because there is so much that is wearing on each and every one of us. And today is Wellness Wednesday. And so with that being the case, just take this as a reminder, just like it's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than us. And we just can't afford. We can't afford to not show up and be here for one another. It's also Women Crush Wednesday. And specifically, I want to shout out all of our Black women out here, who are doing the hard work of healing, who are doing the hard work of, just pouring into the next generation, who are doing the hard work of seeking justice for those who look like us, who are doing the hard work of protecting those who are within our community, women or otherwise, whether that's a Black man, whether that is our Black LGBTQ family, non-binary folks, whoever it may be. Like we got a lot of work to do just within our community. And as a Black woman, yes, my heart is definitely always attuned to Black women and what we go through, and not saying that in a sense of glorifying struggle, because I think that's been too far too often associated with our existence, and we are so much more than that. Nonetheless, it is, I think, for many of us, a reality of our existence. And with that being the case, a reminder to you, just like it's a reminder to me in this moment, that we are more than our struggle. We are more than the strength that we have had to exhibit, continue to have to exhibit. Um, and that's just a part of who we've been and who we are. But just a reminder that like that that doesn't have to fully define everything that we are. There's strength in vulnerability. There is strength in love. There is strength in surrender. There is strength, like all of these different things, right? And again, reminding you, like I'm reminding me in this moment. And yeah, with that said, again, a reminder to do something good for your health, for your body, for your mind, for your soul. It's Women Crush Wednesday. And with that, again, being said, I want to shout out my girl, Kayla J, always holding down the phone lines, the board, and everything in between. Kayla J, I want to know how you are today. I want to know if you got a Dubsy Dub today. Because I got one I'm going to shout out and dig in a little bit into the work that she's doing and what we need to make sure we don't lose sight of in the midst of this uprising, in the midst of this pandemic and everything else that is going on. But before I get to that, got to check in with my girl, Kayla J. So, Kayla J, what's going on with you? How you doing? Who's Dubsy Dub?
What's going on is I need y'all to know that I was not her girl like 3 minutes ago when she was clowning on me when I went to check in on her. She faking
Why was
me
I?
out.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
What am I talking about?
What are you talking about?
Anyway, I'm feeling all right today. Not paying you no attention.
You be lying.
I ain't lying. From lying, I'm frying, and it is
well,
hot
it's hot out here
it's
today. So there we go. She told on herself, y'all. She frying because she lying. Because she lying. You set yourself up for that. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Anyway, my Dubsy Dub on today is just going to have to be me. I'm loving up on me today. So, that's my Dubsy Dub.
You see me dancing? I'm dancing for you. Because it is you. Because that's exactly who it should be. And just FYI, whether it's MCM, okay, Man Crush Monday, or Dubsy Dub, Woman Crush Wednesday, whatever it may be, right? And however you identify, wherever, you fall in the spectrum, don't forget about you. I forget about me often. I'm going to just be real with y'all. I forget about me very often, or at least I just, that's a whole nother story. We'll get into that later. Nonetheless, don't forget to value you, okay? Don't forget to value your contribution to the world, to your workplace, to your family, to whatever space that you may have or do have an impact in. And I mentioned this, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, this conversation that we were having with my daughter. And one of the things we said was just make sure you leave spaces better than you found them. And like attach your value to that. Because that's real. If you go into a workspace or you go, approach a project or whatever else the case may be, and you leave that better than you found it, hello, celebrate yourself in that. Don't wait for someone else to celebrate you. Know that you came in, whether you did it afraid or not, you got it done. And that is worthy of you taking a moment and saying, I did that. Shout out to me. I did that, right? For my Dubsy Dub, I'm going to have to say Tamika D. Mallory. She is the co-founder of Until Freedom. It's an intersectional social justice organization. She is also co-chair of the Women's March on Washington, which took place in 2017, or at least that year was when she served as co-chair. And according to Yahoo News, right, at 40 years old, Mallory has become a leading voice in the fight against injustice and brutality. Her parents were apparently founding members of Reverend Al Sharpton's civil rights organization, the National Action Network. And I found this video, and it's gone viral. So many of you may have already heard it. You know, you've been scrolling on Facebook or on Instagram or wherever else the case may be. You may have come across this video. And I think part of why this video, which is about like 2 minutes or so, and we'll play it. But I think part of why this video went viral is because of just the realness and the rawness that she came with. When you call a thing, and when you specifically for her, coming from, you know, the perspective of a 40-year-old Black woman who, you know, is coming through this lineage of folks who've been about this life, this social justice change and all of this, and is seeing what is happening, and particularly seeing what is happening among younger Americans, young Black Americans, that you're just making sure that you're calling that out, that you're saying, hey, this is what's happening, this is what's going on, let us not forget that. I think that's really important now, especially in our lifetime, because it's so easy, you know, even when we're talking about, you know, gun violence and like all of these other things that are affecting our community, the Black community in particular. It's so easy to say, oh, well, the young people, this, that. When we hear gun violence, so many of us associate young Black people with that. But that's not, those aren't the only people that are engaging in that, in that behavior, right? And the root of that, because you got to remember, that is just the fruit of a root. And the root of so much of what the Black community is sifting through or trying to undo or trying to understand or whatever else the case may be, so much of that is grounded in, and I say this from the perspective of the United States of America, so much of that is grounded in, and I've said this before, the way in which we have been conditioned, taught to not only view ourselves, but to view our position in this country, the role that we play in whatever, whether it's in the educational space or the professional space, so on and so forth. Like, this is, none of this is random. None of this is just completely, you know, just our natural human reaction to things. It has been conditioned, right? And we cannot forget that. And so when Tamika delivered this speech, it was during a rally in Minneapolis on May 29th. And that in itself, of course, was at the height, or at least on the brink of the height of George Floyd's murder. And since then, prior to and since then, there have continued to be protests, this uprising. And I have to say in this moment, I hope that it will continue, that the uprising will continue, that the protests will continue, because we can't afford anything less than that. At 32 years old, and being a mother, and being a daughter, and being a sister, and an aunt, and all of these other different roles and identities, I just hope that we do not lose sight of the momentum of this moment. And it's already time, we're past time for me to take a break. But maybe we can play this. Kayla J, you let me know if we want to play this as we go into this break, or maybe we'll play it when we come back from the break.
We're going to play it going into the break.
Let's play this going into the break. So this is Tamika D. Mallory giving this speech that has gone viral. And I'll come back and give you some more details and actionables and the rundown, what's on tap for today and all that other good stuff. Stay tuned. Happy Hour on WURD Radio. We'll be back after this.
This is a coordinated activity happening across this nation, and so we are in a state of emergency. Black people are dying in a state of emergency. We cannot look at this as an isolated incident. The reason why buildings are burning are not just for our brother George Floyd. They're burning down because people here in Minnesota are saying to people in New York, to people in California, to people in Memphis, to people all across this nation, enough is enough. And we are not responsible for the mental illness that has been inflicted upon our people by the American government, institutions, and those people who are in positions of power. I don't give a damn if they burn down Target, because Target should be on the streets with us, calling for the justice that our people deserve. Where was AutoZone at the time when Philando Castile was shot in a car, which is what they actually represent? Where were they? So if you are not coming to the people's defense, then don't challenge us when young people and other people who are frustrated and instigated by the people you pay. You are paying instigators to be among our people out there throwing rocks, breaking windows, and burning down buildings. And so young people are responding to that. They are enraged, and there's an easy way to stop it. Arrest the cops. Charge the cops. Charge all the cops. Not just some of them, not just here in Minneapolis. Charge them in every city across America where our people are being murdered. Charge them everywhere. That's the bottom line. Charge the cops. Do your job. Do what you say this country is supposed to be about, the land of the free for all. It has not been free for black people, and we are tired. Don't talk to us about looting. Y'all are the looters. America has looted black people. America looted the Native Americans when they first came here. So looting is what you do. We learned it from you. We learned violence from you. We learned violence from you. The violence was what we learned from you. So if you want us to do better, then damn it, you do better.
Start every Sunday the right way with Sunday Morning Praise, hosted by the Reverend Louise Williams Bishop, every Sunday morning beginning at 6 a.m. right here on WURD 96.1 FM and 900 AM, streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Do you need health insurance for your children? The Children's Health Insurance Program, also known as CHIP, provides quality, affordable health insurance for Pennsylvania kids. CHIP ensures that kids can go to the doctor, receive health screenings and vaccines, and get what they need to live a healthy childhood. Families can be covered by CHIP no matter how much money they make. If you've experienced a recent change in employment or income, CHIP may be a good option for your family. Visit chipcoverspakids.com to apply or learn more.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
No fear, just facts. This is WURD, independent black media.
These are unprecedented times, challenging how the YMCA works to strengthen community as we have for nearly 170 years. But we've always found ways to help people and communities in times of crisis. Right now, Ys across the country are providing emergency childcare, shelter, food programs, and outreach to seniors. But we can't do it alone. Whether you're connected to the Y or have a fond Y memory, we need you to stay with us. Reach out to your local Y today and stay with us for a better us.
It's Happy Hour with Sincerely Sarita right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
You're back listening to Happy Hour on WURD Radio 96.1 FM 900 AM. Inviting you to call in. It's Dub C Dub, Women Crush Wednesday. It is Wellness Wednesday, especially when we're talking or thinking about the Black community and our wellness now more than ever in the midst of this uprising and this global pandemic. Definitely want to know how you're taking care of yourself. But also, if I'm being completely honest, what are the things that threaten your wellness right now, and how are you protecting yourself against it? Right? Of course, we know there's police brutality. We know there's systemic racism. But on a day-to-day basis, how are you making sure that you're protecting yourself, protecting your energy? All of these different things, as you just wake up to show up every day for, and who you are and what you've been called to do, or what you are at least focused on doing and accomplishing. Call in, let me know, 215-634-8065. That is the hotline number. You can also call in toll free, 866-361-0900. As I mentioned, it's Dub C Dub. And for me, Tamika D. Mallory, a co-founder of Until Freedom, which is an intersectional social justice organization, is my Dub C Dub. She's also co-chair of the Women's March on Washington that took place in 2017. And we played a bit of her speech that she gave during a rally on May 29th in Minneapolis that went viral. And she sounded the horn, saying that, it's time to escalate, right? And so on Tuesday, July 14th, there is a call to take direct action. And that call is coming from Until Freedom, because it has been 116 plus days since Breonna Taylor has been murdered by the Louisville Police Department, and no one really has been held accountable. And so Until Freedom is declaring that, we must now escalate our actions so that the powers that be know that we're not going to stop until we get justice for Breonna and her family. And so in addition to the demonstrations that looks like is set to take place in Louisville, there are some actions that we can take now. And that includes calling the Louisville mayor, Greg Fisher, and I'm about to share the number. And I'm sharing this number and stating that the encouragement is for us to demand that he fire the officers who murdered Breonna Taylor. And so that number is 502-574-2003. Again, 502-574-2003. We can also call the Kentucky Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, and that number is 502-696-5300. And we can demand that he charge the officers who murdered Breonna Taylor. And again, that number, 502-696-5300. That is the Kentucky Attorney General, Daniel Cameron. We can also call the interim police chief, Robert Schroeder, at 502-504-7111. And demand that he complete the investigation immediately and turn it over to Breonna's lawyers and the Attorney General. Again, that's Police Chief Robert Schroeder, 502-574-7111. And if you live in Kentucky, if you are a resident of Kentucky, you can call your legislators and demand, which has already been done, but just keep the pressure on, right? Just make sure that we're holding them accountable when it comes to the banning of the no-knock warrants across the entire state, so that something like this never happens again. Because the clear-cut message is that we're not going to stop until we get justice for Breonna Taylor, but also that we don't ever want to see something like this happen again. Not in Kentucky, not nationwide, internationally, whatever else the case may be. And the only way that we can guarantee that is to continue to apply pressure, right? That's it. So I want to take a call really quickly before we get to our guest, our first guest of the evening, joining us for happy hour. So let's go to Maurice on line 1. Maurice, are you there?
Yes, I am, Sister Sarita.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, you had spoke on something yesterday concerning Deshaun Jackson I want to elaborate on. If you remember, I called in Monday, and I told you I had some friends, white friends, that didn't understand things about black culture. And I went on to say about Israel, and he didn't understand why Israel, no one ever told him why Israel was considered a statehood. And I explained to him that the white people there are not there by birthright or nationhood. They are there by political, culture, and religious reasons. And because they're there for those reasons, they use it's called Zionism that allowed them to be there. But because they don't have the birthright there, they are given a statehood in 1948. That's the reason. So when Deshaun Jackson put that post up, that was the right post. Now, I don't know who put it up or what said, but the facts in the post are the correct facts. But two things happened. One happened today, and one happened over the weekend I want to bring to your attention. I'm watching ESPN, and I'm appalled that Stephen A. Smith, I don't know who you are. I don't know if you know who he is, rather. He's a black sports analyst. And he went against Stephen Jackson for speaking up for Deshaun Jackson. And he didn't know our culture or our history, our African history. And he's the perfect example who Dr. Carter G. Woodson called a miseducation of the Negro, misinformed, uninformed, and miseducated. He referred to his white counterpart and asked his white counterpart about their white history to make their white history our African history in Israel. And that had me so sick, and here's a man in front of millions of people that don't know his own history. I was sick. The second part happened was you have young people in Fayetteville, North Carolina. They fighting white supremacy there. You have 8 city council members that's fighting against them. They fight to get the slave. I don't know if you know about Fayetteville, but they have a big slave market house there, or where the slaves were sold at. And outside that house, they have a list of what the slaves were sold for as far as the price list. And the people want the place tore down. He admits that his great-grandfather was sold out that house, but he still don't see a problem tearing it down.
Gotcha. And so for you, it sounds like that's problematic. Loves for all of you who have been keeping track of the headlines, the developments across the nation. Like we've said before, and we're saying now, call in, let us know what is on your radar so that we can do our part, because we're not going to catch all the stories. But that's why teamwork makes the dream work. That's a slogan that I live by. So personally, so call in and make sure that we're getting these headlines to our WURD family members. But then also that, we're doing our due diligence when it comes to research and all of that other stuff. And that we're just keeping these stories that mainstream media may not otherwise report on, that we're keeping them at the forefront. So if there are stories that are on your radar, call in 215-634-8065. You can also call in toll free 866-361-0900. In the midst of everything that's going on in terms of the uprising that's happening nationwide and internationally, we also still have the pandemic, right? The COVID-19 pandemic. And the word community cares, especially when it comes to this pandemic. And so we get to welcome our next guest, who is Dr. Rich Besser, President and CEO of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, based in Princeton, New Jersey. He's also the former acting director of the CDC during the H1N1 influenza pandemic in 2009. And so he joins us to discuss some developments on the coronavirus surge and the mixed messages that we've been receiving as American citizens about the reopening and what we really need to make sure that we're in the know about, that we're focusing on as the Black community. So Dr. Rich Besser, thank you so much for joining us for Happy Hour. First and foremost, how are you doing, and what are your thoughts on where we're currently at with this global pandemic?
Yeah, well, first I want to thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Look forward to the conversation. I think we are in a very dangerous place when it comes to this pandemic, and the reason for that is that we're hearing incredibly mixed messages. You know, every public health leader in the nation is saying that this is very serious. This is an infection that can be quite dangerous, and that we're in the early days of it. And what we do as individuals, and even more importantly, what we do as a society to ensure that people can protect their health and the health of their families and communities really matters. And then we're hearing political messages that are all over the board, from some political leaders who are saying, yes, listen to public health, and then others who are saying, there's nothing to worry about. Let's just get people back to work, back to their social lives, kids back in schools, and it will all be fine. And that just leads to chaos, with people aligning, in many cases, by political party, and people's actions being driven in large part by economic necessity and the lack of support for people to be able to take all of the steps that they should be able to take to protect their health.
So, you know, I'm a parent, right? I have two daughters, one who is 15 and one who is 11. And I, you know, I'm skimming through different articles that are coming out. And there is an article over on the NewYorkTimes.com that reported that the CDC will announce new guidelines for reopening schools. And this apparently is coming hours after the Trump administration has spoken out against what apparently they view as, you know, these kind of strict regulations. Given your experience with H1N1 and how we had to move at that point to make sure that we were keeping citizens safe, not just on a national level, but also, you know, just the global community. Mm-hmm. Where should we really be focusing our efforts when it comes to reopening schools? Many who are set to open in the U.S. in early August, early to mid-August. Is this too soon? You know, we just had Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, her husband, one of four children diagnosed, and something that she cited was that Georgia reopened too soon. They were too aggressive with that, and it wasn't time. Are we about to experience that same thing as the nation when it comes to reopening our schools? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I'm a parent and I'm a pediatrician, and I know how important it is to get kids back into school. And that has to be a goal. Let's get kids back to school. But we need to do it in a way that's safe for the kids who are going back to school, but it also needs to be safe for the staff and for the teachers who work in schools. You know, thankfully, this is an illness that is mild in almost all children. Many will have no symptoms whatsoever, but not all. There will be children who have severe illness, but most will do well. But that doesn't hold true for staff and teachers in schools. We need to make sure that they're protected. And it's hard for me to see schools being able to open safely in any community where disease transmission is widespread. You know, thankfully, I'm right now in New Jersey, and New Jersey, New York were two states that were hit the hardest early on, and have been able to turn the curve so that the amount of transmission is much, much lower. And so I can envision how schools can open here, not like the way they were 6 months ago. It's going to take resources from the federal government to make sure that they're able to disinfect schools every day, that they're able to reconfigure classrooms so there's not as many kids in each classroom. so that there's barriers up to protect staff in places where, food is being distributed, so that children are screened and staff are screened when they come in and masks are available. There's a lot of work to be done to do it safely. I am worried that CDC, which had issued very broad, detailed guidance on school reopening, is retooling that. And I think we all will need to look at the guidance very carefully to make sure it hasn't been influenced politically to move away from what public health would recommend should be done. And communities of color are going to get hit the hardest, because when you look at the investment in schools, which schools have dollars to reconfigure and which do not, you tend to see a lot less investment in Black communities. And that's going to take federal dollars to get those schools to the position where you can have fewer kids in the classroom, kids can keep 6 feet apart, and they can learn in a safe way.
Yeah. It's been interesting because one of the things that I've been trying to figure out and I'm keeping an eye on as a parent is if the school district, here in Philly decides to open to, have in-person classes, but as a parent, I don't feel comfortable with that. What are my rights? How do I navigate that moment where society says we're willing essentially to take that risk and, open the schools back up and we'll put these precautions in, but also as a parent, I may encounter some kind of, penalty? If I say I as a parent don't feel comfortable enough to send my kids back into this space, I'd rather homeschool them, and knowing that that's a privilege in itself to be able to do that. I mean, is there space for parents? And I don't even know that this is, and I'm being completely transparent in this moment, I don't know if this is something that, you would necessarily have a full answer to, but I would love to hear your perspective on it. Is that a right or a firm ground that a parent can stand on and say, whether the school district is opening or not, or my child's school is opening or not, I don't feel comfortable at this point sending my kids back into this space when we haven't been able to get this under control as a nation. So why would I expect that, being a member of a community of color, and specifically a Black community that has been, so affected by this, that things would be handled properly? Like, what do we do? What do we do?
Yeah, I think your concerns are spot on. And, as schools are looking to reopen, they need to be working with a number of different groups. They need to work with parents to make sure that parents understand the decisions that are being made, and so that parents are comfortable that schools are safe. They need to work with teacher and staff groups and unions to make sure that teachers and staff are safe. They need to work with public health to make sure that public health feels it's safe. But there also have to be provisions set up so that students who either are at high risk and shouldn't be coming to school because it is riskier for them, or students who live in a household where there are other individuals who would be at greater risk if a child were to bring home COVID, so that their learning needs are met. And I think that this is going to need to be some hybrid between in-person teaching and learning and the ability to do learning remotely, either through straight up homeschooling or homeschooling that's remote. And clearly that's not as good. It's not as good to be connected remotely via Zoom or something else to teaching. We've seen that already this spring. But that option has to be there, both for teachers who are at great risk and can't come into school to teach, but also for children who may live with grandparents who are at greater risk, or parents who are at greater risk, or themselves may have medical conditions, or whose parents just don't feel it's safe and want to have other options. There's got to be a lot of flexibility here.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you spoke on that, because that's definitely been something where I'm like, how do we prepare ourselves, as parents, as community members, to be able to engage in that conversation, you know, in a very informed and also empathetic way, but also, you know, keeping our children, our family members, their health at the forefront of how we move forward. And you know, given your experience as former acting director of the CDC during the H1N1 influenza pandemic in 2009, for those of us in this moment who may not necessarily understand or are still trying to figure out, because like you mentioned a little earlier, like there is so much misinformation and just misguidance about how to navigate this. What really goes into being in that position and trying to work with any administration at that point to make sure that the right information is trickling down to the American people, right? To those of us trying to figure out how to maneuver throughout our everyday life. What all goes into that? What was that experience like for you?
Well, I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face right now is that we're not hearing from CDC every day around what public health science is saying, what the public health recommendations are. You know, one of the things with the swine flu, with the 2009 H1N1 pandemic, I went to the White House to brief the president and the cabinet, and what President Obama said during that briefing, it was 100 days into his administration, he said that everything we do in our response will be based on the best available public health science. We will be led by science in all of our decisions. And he stuck to that. And it was empowering to public health because we knew what we did really mattered. He allowed me, as the acting head of CDC, to be out front in terms of the messaging around what people could do to protect their health. And then he backed it up with his direction to all of his cabinet departments that what they did had to be in support of the public health response. And it's very different from what we're seeing now, where so much of the messaging is coming from politicians, and we're not hearing from CDC almost at all in terms of what the recommendations are for people to do. Very different situation, and it leads to people deciding based on very limited information, based on their political persuasion more than straight up science, and that's not a good position to be in, because what I do has an impact on your health, and what you do has an impact on mine, and we should be playing off the same playbook in terms of facts and information.
Gotcha. Loves, we are chatting with Dr. Rich Besser, President and CEO of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and former acting director of the CDC during the H1N1 influenza pandemic in 2009. And very thankful to have him joining us just to provide a little more insight as we navigate this current global pandemic when it comes to COVID-19, the novel coronavirus. You know, when we're thinking about the Black community and some of the equity issues that this pandemic has amplified, do you see any difference from when you were acting director of the CDC during the H1N1 influenza pandemic versus what we're seeing now? Are there some glaring differences? Is it pretty much the same? I mean, what is it like for you to see how the world and the Black community in particular is being affected versus when you were in that position?
Well, you know, I have to say that, you know, the scale and scope of the public health crisis is totally different. We got really lucky with the flu pandemic in 2009 that it wasn't that severe. It could have been, but it wasn't. What we're dealing with now is orders of magnitude more dangerous and more severe. And what we're seeing play out is that Black Americans, Latino Americans, Native Americans are getting hit incredibly hard by this. And I don't think in 2009 we were paying any more attention to what groups, what individuals were getting hit the hardest then. We didn't pay any more attention than is being paid now, but it is clear now, and we're calling this out wherever we can, that due to issues of structural racism, due to the inaction of government, we are seeing minority communities, we're seeing lower income communities getting hit really hard. And as we go forward, if there aren't changes to how this pandemic is being addressed, the same communities will continue to get hit the hardest. And it doesn't have to be that way.
So as we get ready to let you go, we have probably about a minute or so left. When you speak of those changes, what specifically, when it comes to the Black community, what are those changes that we can play a part in making sure that, whether it's holding elected officials accountable or, like what are those changes that we can play a part in ensuring that they happen?
Well, I mean, there clearly are policy changes that have to happen. In America, the majority of lower-income workers don't have sick leave or family medical leave. That means that if you're sick, you've either got to work or you're not going to get paid. And if you've been exposed to COVID, but you're not sick, the recommendation is that you should be quarantined, so that if you become ill, you won't make other people ill. Well, if you don't have sick leave or family medical leave, you can't do that. We are in a situation where at the start of this, 28 million Americans didn't have health insurance. And that number is going up because of how much health insurance is tied to people's jobs. That's something that can change through policy work. And we have to demand that essential workers, not just healthcare workers who are essential workers, but all essential workers, a high proportion are people of color, that they have the protections they need in their jobs. We're seeing outbreaks related to food production, whether it's agricultural or meat production. We see workers in food distribution and transportation in so many different sectors who don't have the protective equipment that they should have. And that means they're at greater risk of getting sick. And if they live in a multi-generational household or don't have the extra room in their house to be able to isolate or quarantine, it means that they're getting their family members sick. And so we need to demand that our government provide spaces like other countries have done, whether it's hotels or dormitories, income supports, so that anyone who's been infected or has been exposed has what they need to protect themselves and their families. And this is all as some of the federal support that came through the CARES Act in terms of, the one-time paycheck, the supplemental unemployment insurance, the moratoria on evictions and foreclosures. That's all expiring. And with that expiring, it puts people who are on the margins economically at the greatest risk. And that doesn't have to be. We should demand action by our legislators to enact legislation that will protect people.
Gotcha. All right, so Dr. Rich Besser, for folks who want to get in contact with you or learn more about the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, which is based in Princeton, New Jersey, what's the best way for them to do that?
Come to our website. It's rwjf as in Frank.org. And we have principles there on how to reopen the economy based on equity so that everyone has a fair and just opportunity for health and well-being.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us for Happy Hour on WURD Radio.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. All right, loves, we are getting ready to take a quick break, but appreciate all of you who are tuned in over on 96.1 FM, 900 AM on WURDradio.com. And, of course, the free Word app available in the Apple app and Google Play stores. And can't forget, over on Word TV, I see some of you commenting. Liz Brown, she said, I'm assuming, but you know what? Liz Brown just said, you need to stop repeating yourself. Ask the question and let him answer. And so, Liz, I hope that you were able to get some great information or useful information from the interview. Please do respond. Let me know if you got the questions answered that you felt were important. If not, feel free to email me those questions, and I'll make sure that I can follow up with Dr. Besser so that we can get your questions answered We're doing things for the most part on the spot with definitely the research being done, but also wanting to make sure that we are being mindful of everyone's time involved in this conversation. So the email to reach me directly is sincerely Sarita, SYREETA @gmail.com. Again, sincerely Sarita @gmail.com. Feel free to, send any questions that you feel didn't get answered in the course of this interview. I will be happy to forward them so that we can get those questions answered. Shout out to Shalada. She said parents need to make a call and or go online to the PA Department of Education for answers as well. And so appreciate you for coming with that resource. So loves, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back on the other side, we're having another mental health conversation led by our girl, Kayla J. You don't want to miss it. We're continuing the discussion around community healing, and what we do in this time of uprising and pandemic and how we move forward. So stay tuned. I'm your host, Sincerely Sarita. We'll be back after these messages.
In Pennsylvania, everyone counts, and everyone needs to participate in the census. Our population count determines our voice in government and how much federal funding our communities receive for health care, food assistance, education, transportation, housing, and more. So every infant and child, every foreign and U.S. citizen, everyone matters. For a stronger future, we all need to count. To learn more, go to pa.gov/census.
Your child deserves to be educated in a safe learning environment. Southwest Leadership Academy Charter School is a tuition-free public school. Both our locations offer dual-gender environments with single-gender classrooms. Our students score in the top state testing percentile among area schools. Apply online at bit.ly/enrolls SLA in all caps. That's bit.ly/enroll SLA.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
And blessings, everyone. This is Leah Penniman of Soulfire Farm, and I am very excited to share with you today an excerpt from my book, Farming While Black, Soulfire Farm's Practical Guide to Liberation on the Land.
Join WURD this Thursday, July 9th for a special Black Farmers broadcast with WURD's EcoWord initiative during Reality Check with Charles Ellison. Visit ecoword.com to listen to an excerpt of Farming While Black by Leah Penniman and tune into Reality Check for a conversation with Alexandra Barlow from the Black Farmers Fund. You don't want to miss this special broadcast this Thursday, July 9th, 11 a.m., exclusively on Word Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com and Word TV via Facebook.
JD's Auto Body and Painting is hiring talent for the following positions. Assembler, preferably 2 to 3 years experience, able to tear down and reassemble all make and model cars. Painter, must have at least 5 years overall painting experience, including experience in water-based paint and able to prep cars for paint jobs. Auto Body Technician, looking for an A or B technician, must have at least 5 years experience repairing cars. Please send your resume to JD's Auto Body and Painting at Comcast.net. That's JDS Auto Body and Painting at Comcast.net. Or call 215-848-5349 for more details. JD's Auto Body and Painting is an equal opportunity employer.
One in 23 will be diagnosed with colorectal cancer in their lifetime, yet more than 60% of deaths from colorectal cancer could be avoided with preventative screening. A colonoscopy can save your life. Skip the pre-visit and schedule your screening directly at einstein.edu/colon. Colon cancer is preventable. Learn more at einstein.edu/colon.
This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Independent Black Media.
I've been walking with my face turned to the sun. Weight on my shoulders, a bullet in my gun. Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can, while I can for my people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones.
You are back listening to Happy Hour on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. I'm your host, sincerely, Sarita. It's Wellness Wednesday. If you have not already, I hope that you have taken a moment or will take a moment to, just pour into yourself, your body, your mind, your soul, your spirit today. We get to have the honor of keeping an amazing conversation going that we started probably at this point, I think it's about 2 weeks ago. Another mental health conversation with Jackie Johnson, a social justice art therapist who specializes in trauma-specific treatment within marginalized communities using a holistic approach. And so she returns to join us for Happy Hour. And this, next edition of another mental health conversation, of course, is spearheaded by our girl, Kayla J. So y'all, ladies, let's get into it, because we got to continue the work of not only self-healing, but community healing. And when we say work, that means work. There's nothing easy about it. That comes with internal reflection, that comes with self-accountability, but that also comes with all of that needs to happen at a communal level. So Kayla J., let us know where you want to start. And, Jackie, thank you so much once again for joining us for Happy Hour.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super happy to have you back. I want to start off by just checking in. How you feeling? Last time you were here, about 2 weeks ago, you gave us homework to self-reflect and do I am statements without putting an A in front of it. So how you feeling? And then I think I'm going to try to say my I am statements. Sarita, you can try to say yours if you have one. And then we can start talking about how we're going to heal our community. So how you feeling today, Jackie?
I'm feeling honored and blessed to be here with you again. I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling hopeful that we're even having these conversations. I don't know if I just froze, but I'm feeling really hopeful, excited. I'm excited that we're still having these conversations around mental health, and especially at the communal level, because I don't think we have enough of those conversations. And, for my I am statement, I have my go-to is, I'm just a masterpiece trying to masterpiece. Really trying to find that internal space that allows me to show up as my full and authentic self. And that's my goal and my mantra that I try to share with others as well.
Oh, man, that's good. Let me just tell you, Jackie, when you gave us that assignment, it literally drew me to tears. I was all week, even up until this current weekend, I have been meditating and thinking on this and reading my Bible and other devotional things just to kind of help me figure it out, because I realized that I never did not put an A behind it. I am a producer. I am a preacher. I am a daughter. That was what defined. I am a musician. That's kind of just when people ask who is Kayla J. Oh, I do this, I do that. Never truly thinking about other aspects of my life. I even asked my mom yesterday, "What do you think comes naturally to me?" So it was a really good and hard thing, task for me. So I came up with I am different, I am inquisitive, and I am unique.
Yes.
All right, y'all. I have to be completely honest. The past week and a half or so, it's I was on vacation, and quote unquote vacation. It was rough. Like there were definitely, of course, some absolutely blessed parts of it. But in terms of self-work, self-exploration, like all of those different levels, it was not an easy week. It was more so a week where I felt like I was being tested more than anything. And so with that said, it wasn't necessarily a week where I felt the most empowered. It wasn't a week where I felt the most assured. And so for me, it was about the surrender. It was about being real with the fact that I don't feel powerful in this moment, or I am very vulnerable in this moment. I am trying to build myself up in this moment. I am trying to heal in this moment. And so I think the most powerful affirmation that has guided me through all of that, whether, that is me showing up as a mother, or me showing up as a woman, or me showing up as a professional, or whatever else the case may be, all of these different roles, was that I am healing. And that is a constant process. It's not an easy process. It is not a pretty process. But it is a belief and faith that I'm holding really tight to in this moment, because I believe that that is attached to any sense of freedom that I will obtain at some point in time. So that has been an affirmation that I've been really just continuously trying to gravitate to, is that I am healing. So that's what I got for it.
I am healing.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Wow, and that is powerful. And the reason why we talked about it, and we touched on a little bit 2 weeks ago, is that we don't have that space, and we're often not given the permission to really look at who am I outside of the expectations that everyone has on me, and especially as Black women, really looking at that gendered racism, that intersection of not just being Black, but also being a woman, and what that means and how that shows up for us, and how many hats we have to wear because of it. And along with that, looking at those unique experiences and really being able to understand that we are complicated. There's a lot of intersections that are part of us. And as you're saying, how do we get empowered? Because society doesn't tell us that we should be. We're coming from these very marginalized intersections. And how do we then internalize it? How are we taught to approach it as a child? And then as a mother, and as all of these other things. And that's why it's so important that when we're going through the healing process, to then pull some of that stuff apart. Because some of those labels were put on us. We didn't ask for those labels. All of these expectations, and some of those labels aren't good labels. There's this historical trauma that's related to that, of not really having any respect or any value to a Black woman's body other than to give birth to a child, which was then property. So really understanding the legacy of what it's like for us to show up in the world, and to be able to take that power back.
No, I like that. So with that though, if we can stay right there in that vein, we've come up with our I am statements. How can we as communities take those I ams and change them to we ares to heal? to prosper in these marginalized, some would say broken communities? How do we start to transfer that from individuals to community?
I think once it's kind of what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Mm-hmm. So if I, as an individual, see my worth, see my value, understand that I am important and I have all of these pieces, I show up different. And when I show up different, I'm showing up in love. I'm not showing up in a way that I feel that you're here to attack me, that you're here to hurt me, because I feel safe. So it's a matter of that, or relatively safe, as far as that healing piece of it. And the same thing with the community. You know, if I'm able to come into community that can hold space. So when we talk about holding space, we're talking about holding space for all of it, whether it's joy, whether it's sadness, whether it's anger, all of those things, all of those range of emotions is not just one. So when we're able to come together and hold that space to enjoy or to cry together, because I guess it kind of goes back to what I said before, trauma happens in isolation. Healing happens in community, when it's seen, when it's witnessed. So, and I think part of it, if we're talking specifically about the Black community, because I think that's the important thing too, we need to talk about what does community mean, what community we're talking about, and what view are we even approaching? What does healing mean? So there's all of those things that we have to pull apart. So for me, when I'm talking about community, I'm talking specifically about the Black community. I'm talking about the Black community and healing from historical trauma, you know, and all of those things that have come from those things. So really looking at, for one, defying the lie, you know, really getting rid of this lie of white superiority and Black inferiority, because that's where it starts when we talk about historical trauma. And it feeds into so many aspects of our life. It feeds into the kind of healthcare that we get, the kind of educational systems that we get, the resources we have access to, and so many other things. So when we start to take back that power as a community and say, no, I deserve better, and this is why I deserve better, we move together in a very different way.
You know, in hearing you speak on a few of those different points, I can't help but to think about the fragmentation that has occurred within our community. When I say our community, I mean the Black community, right? There is very much, I think, the sense of individual survival, of, you know, doing what you have to do to make it or to provide for your immediate family or whatever else the case may be. And that's not just like it's unique to our community, right? Like that's at its core, that's human survival. That is like what you are likely to see and historically have seen in any other community. But within our community here in the United States, and the way in which American slavery has influenced the way in which we live today, there are moments where I wonder, or I really try to deeply consider just what all it takes to kind of undo or unravel where the I and we starts, whether it's on a communal level or on a citizen level, you know, being American citizens, but also being African Americans with roots in Africa, having been kidnapped or sold or whatever else from our motherland, and then here, and like, how do we build this present and future while also reckoning with where we have come from and what is actually due, and it kind of becomes a merry-go-round of just like, where does it start, where does it end, you know, and knowing that there is accountability absolutely to be held when it comes to founding fathers, when it comes to those who came onto this land, took it by raping, pillaging, all of these other things. And at what point and I think this is even within our community and conversations that we've had, at what point do we look at ourselves and say, okay, but we got to heal, and we're responsible for that. And that has to happen on an individual level, and that has to happen on a communal level. And like you said, where's the hatching? Where's the, like, where does it start? Where does it end? And so I'm curious to know, like, for you, what is the start, not necessarily the finish, but like, where do we arrive at that intersection of the individual meets the communal, and this is how we can do those two things, as I said before on the show, like walking and chewing gum at the same time. How, like, is that even possible? Is that realistic? And if so, how do we do that at the same time?
Yeah, that's a lot there. But even thinking of, the quote of, when you take the I out of illness and you put the we in there, we have wellness. And it's really, it goes back to the idea of the village. It really just does. Each one teach one, well, each one heal one. And we have to be persistent. For those of us that are in different spaces in our healing journey, we can't forget where we came from. We can't now expect for people who are in a perpetual state of surviving, as you said. And it means if I'm in a perpetual state of surviving, that means I have a whole lot of hypo vigilance going on, So that means I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm always waiting for something to go wrong, for someone to take something from me. And that's a really difficult thing. There is no easy answer around it. There just isn't. I wish there was. I wish there was this magic wand, but I think to continue to have these conversations and to stop othering ourselves. I think other communities do enough of that. So when we talk about how people should respond and how people should react, we need to recognize that what we're doing is projecting our own wishes on ourselves onto somebody else. So when we're critiquing people who may have some involvement with the criminal legal system, and it's like, oh, well, those folks, when we're looking at our young Black girls who are criminalized in schools and pushed out of their educations, oh, well, that girl, she, she did A, B, and C, she should have this, or the parent should have that, rather than us labeling and othering, looking at how do we support each other. And I think that's really where it really starts. Healing starts with the ability and willingness to support. Because when we do that, not only do we heal ourselves, we're also healing each other. And we just have to continue to have these conversations. So like last summer, what I did was I had the Black Mental Health and Wellness Workshop Series. I was doing that before it was popular. Because now people want to talk about Black mental health and wellness. When I was saying it before, it's like, oh, well, why do you have to keep making it about race? Well, I need to make it about race because that's a real specific experience that's happening. This is what is exacerbating other things that are going on in just regular everyday life stressors. And with that, just every week, having it open with community members to just come out and just talk. And you'd be surprised of the different people that came out and just the community that it created. But we need more of those spaces. We need more of those spaces that are available. We need more organizations that are willing to support those kinds of spaces and support the logistics around it. How do we bring people together when we're back in community? How do we now be able to give people light refreshments? Where do we house some things? How do we have these conversations? One of the other things that I'm doing is doing emotional emancipation circles. It was put on hold because of the pandemic, but something that I'm partnering with the Johnson House to do. Through the Community Healing Network and the Association of Black Psychologists, put together this evidence-based approach to how do we heal the community. But we need more of those conversations and willingness. And it's kind of I think the thing that also makes it complicated, being in a city like Philadelphia, where there's so much poverty, being, the largest poor city in America, there are so many challenges. And for us to remember to not label or criticize others because of where they are in their journey. People are out here trying to survive. And if I'm trying to survive, healing may not be on the list, not because I don't want to heal, but because I just don't have the emotional capacity. I don't have the bandwidth. And again, where are the resources for that? And if I share with you that I'm struggling, does that mean you're going to take away my children? What does that mean? So if we're not going to support the multitude of community grassroots organizations and spaces and places and people collectively, it makes it harder to go up this uphill battle we're already facing.
And it is an uphill battle on a lot of different levels, and not one that we need to be I think need to be discouraged in taking on. It's a necessary one, right? Because it's not just about us, it's about everyone who's coming up behind us. And we have to take a quick break. But loves, this is not just a 1, 2, 3 conversation. It's not just an ABC where you got to see your way out. No, we want you to see your way in, okay, so that we can continue to build upon it. So please do call in, 215-634-8065. That is the hotline number. Again, 215-634-8065. You can also call in toll free, 866-361-0900. Again, 866-361-0900. We're having another mental health conversation with Jackie Johnson, a social justice art therapist who specializes in trauma-specific treatment within marginalized communities using a holistic approach. She is returning and joining us for Happy Hour on WURD Radio, and we're thankful that you are too. So stay tuned. We're taking a quick break, and we'll be back after these messages.
If you want to start your morning with mindfulness, motivation, and inspiration, tune in to Daybreak with me, Helana, here on WURD Radio, Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 a.m. I'm a health and wellness coach with over 15 years experience helping people to transform their lives. On the show, we talk health and wellness 360, from getting your mind right to getting your money right. So let's rise and shine together right here on WURDradio.com, 96.1 FM, 900 on your AM dial, on Daybreak every morning.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time Shiro to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. Start saving more for retirement now, so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
A message brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Listen live at WordRadio.com.
And blessings, everyone. This is Leah Penniman of Soulfire Farm, and I am very excited to share with you today an excerpt from my book, Farming While Black, Soulfire Farm's Practical Guide to Liberation on the Land.
Join WURD this Thursday, July 9th for a special Black Farmers broadcast with WURD's onWURD initiative during Reality Check with Charles Ellison. Visit ecoword.com to listen to an excerpt of Farming While Black by Leah Penniman, and tune into Reality Check for our conversation with Alexandra Barlow from the Black Farmers Fund. You don't want to miss this special broadcast this Thursday, July 9th, 11 a.m., exclusively on Word Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com and Word TV via Facebook.
It's Happy Hour
with Sincerely Sarita
right now
on Word Radio
and wordradio.com.
Grab your mic. It's time for Kayla J's Karaoke Song of the Day.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains. mountains, and I rise up, I rise like the day. I rise up, I rise unafraid. I rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. And I rise up, I like the waves. I rise up, in spite of the ache. I rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. You, the silence is quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains, and I rise up, I rise like the day. I rise up, I rise unafraid. I rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other. And we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. Oh, we'll rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up, I like the waves. We'll rise up, in spite of the ache. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again.
You're back listening to Happy Hour on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. It's Wellness Wednesday. Would love to know how you are taking care of yourself, of your community, of your family, in the midst of everything that is going on right now, right? Whether it's the pandemic, whether it's the, this the uprising that we're seeing happening. That many of us are, finding our positions in, right? When it comes to the revolution and when it comes to the uprising, how are you taking care of yourself? How are you taking care of yourself? Let's be real. Keep it real with yourself on that level. Are we taking care of ourselves? I don't know about y'all. It's been a struggle for me. I got to be completely 100 with it. It's been a struggle. I don't think that it's something at all that I've been doing 100%, like hitting the mark on. Absolutely not. It's very much something like literally daily that I'm having to navigate in full knowledge that the individual is tied to the collective, right? Is tied to the community. And what does that mean when maybe we're not taking care of ourselves in the best way? What does that mean for our community? And not that, I'm not saying that to add any additional pressure to, what life already is or how we're already trying to show up in the world or to heal those wounds or whatever else the case may be. But just that we never lose sight of the fact that we are connected to something that is bigger than us, that we are connected to this reality that is bigger than us. And so with that, of course, wanting to hear from you, you can call in 215-634-8065 and toll free 866-361-0900. We do a really great job of sounding off when it's things that we don't like about what the world is doing or what an administration is doing or, what the man is doing and all of that. We got time for days, to fire off those complaints. But somehow when it comes to our wellness, our mental health wellness, our physical wellness, it gets so quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's cool when we can talk about the external, but when we start digging into the internal, then phone lines and emails and all of that, it goes so silent.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's a scary space. Because that's a scary space.
It is.
It's a space that you're not accustomed to. And and just the way that our bodies respond to feeling safe, it doesn't feel safe because it's not something that's comfortable. It's not something familiar. We're so busy having to just go and be all of these things to everyone and code switch depending on where we are. There's like 10 versions of us running around. Depending on who you with, what they look like, who's with them, and what situation, and what's the setup. There's so much, not to negate the idea that we're well aware, whether we want it to be or not, we have to be twice as good to even be considered okay when we're looking at, structures that are built off of racist ideas. So we can't emphasize that enough, but just being in the stillness. And I think a lot of folks have had some troubles with that, with the pandemic, because you've had to sit down.
Yeah.
And we're not accustomed to sitting down. And not to mention that some of the place we have to sit down in may not be safe. So make no mistake about that. But even beyond that, I no longer can just go and do all of these, 30 million different tasks and 3 different jobs and juggling all these things. That really gets me to be able to avoid what's going on with me and all of the ways that I've been harmed, because if I stop and I look at all of the different ways I've been harmed and how that makes me feel, I now become vulnerable. And if I become vulnerable, does that now make me a target to be hurt again? And that's really just the way that our psyche works, which is one of the reasons why we need to continue with the community and creating these spaces, those that are in different journey, parts of their journey with healing, of really going back and creating these other spaces for folks. And also recognizing that, and although I am a licensed professional counselor, I'm a therapist, therapy isn't the only answer. I don't encourage the people that I'm with, like, hey, you need to have me for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. If you need that, then fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I also am very clear in understanding that healing happens in so many different ways. It is not just relegated to this one uniform model. Because even within therapy, there's way different, multiple ways of even approaching it there. But then there's also all of these other holistic ways. Just calling up your good girlfriend sometimes and being able to cry can also be healing. Being able to commune with your family and play a good game of Monopoly can be healing. There are so many different ways, and I think we don't give enough credit to all of them. Every single one of them. It's very important, especially when we look in the Black community, we're a collective society. It's very important to be able to come together. So we also need to understand what that strain of the pandemic and social distancing, how that's exacerbating our collective need to just be together as well.
That's good.
Yeah,
I want to pause you.
I was about to say.
I want to pause you right there. I want to pause you right there, but I want to come back to it. But I want to bring in our caller real quick because I don't want to keep her on the line. So, Ms. Bobby, welcome to Happy Hour.
Thank you. I want to do something or say something to all of you guys. First of all, you guys are maturing so well. I thank you for all of your knowledge, your sharing that knowledge. I send you great prayers for your strength. I want you to understand when it gets too much, just stop. Just take a minute and stop. Because this world is revolving so fast, and you're running with this world, and you're proving your physical and mental strength. Your brilliance is already there. So I send you prayers for strength. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Miss Bobby. That's definitely needed. I know for myself and Sarita, definitely, and for Jackie's strength. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. Jackie, getting back to almost to Miss Bobby's point of us being tired. You said we as African Americans usually have to prove ourselves a little bit more. I was watching the TBS series The Last OG, and there was this particular episode where Tracy Morgan was having a conversation with his son on the show, and he was having the cop talk with his son. His son had got pulled over and got a ticket and other things, and the son didn't understand why when he was with Tracy Morgan, his biological dad, he got a ticket versus when he was with his stepfather, who was a white gentleman, why he was able to talk himself out of the ticket. And Tracy Morgan was just explaining that whole situation of policing the black body to him. And he looked to him and his mother, who was played by Tiffany Haddish, and said, I thought things like that didn't happen to black people like us. Because they were middle class. They lived in the good part of Brooklyn, as they would say. They went to a private school. And a lot of times is not talked about, that middle class of African Americans who sometimes feel just like that young man. I thought these things couldn't happen to us. When we're talking about healing the community, how can we separate class to do that? Because a lot of times classism gets in the way of our organizing, of our healing. Because you have one thinking, well, I'm better than you. You have one thinking, well, I'll never amount to what you do. And therefore, we're fighting for the same thing, but we're going about it different ways. And sometimes the goal is never met.
So I don't know how to answer that question. We're fighting racism, classism, inequities. There's so many different levels of it, but mental health and wellness isn't separated out by class in any way. We all still are going to suffer from mental health. I actually jotted down, there was a statistic of Black Americans are 20% more likely to experience some sort of mental health distress, like anxieties and depression. And understanding that a lot of that is fueled by a racist structure.
Right.
And I think we just need to name it and call it what it is. And recognizing that even within class, it's still the dehumanization of Black bodies. And I think we need to call it what it is. We need to acknowledge that. And if we don't, we can't move past it because we're pretending that the harm that's there, that is consistently harming us, doesn't exist. And even if we're not able to necessarily stop it immediately, we need to be able to arm ourselves with it. So being able to talk to our children early about how they are beautiful, to combat some of those negative, ideas and thoughts that may be put on top of them, as they're growing up. There just isn't an easy answer. There just isn't.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you, and I totally figured it would not be an easy answer because as I was watching, I was just like, wow, I could relate a little bit sometimes to the young man because when you're raised in a different environment and you aren't exposed to certain things, sometimes you feel that it can't happen to you just because it hasn't happened to you. So I definitely related, but unlike the young man, sometimes, you know, in your head you're like, well, I want to help and fix it, and you want to go the mental health route because you know that later down the line this can and will affect you, versus some folks who feel that, well, it's never going to happen to me. There's no need to worry about the wellness of the rest of our people. So I just wanted to know your take on that. I know we got to get ready for a break. Do you have a few more minutes to stick around?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So do you want me to answer that question now or wait?
Yeah, wait after the break.
We're going.
Okay.
We're going to wait.
Okay.
And you know, Kayla J, I'm glad you brought that up as we go to this break. One of the things that, or a conversation that for me brought to a whole nother light of just insight, was speaking with a family member who lived in a rural area of the state, and you know, just shared that, you know, even being Black, going into the city and interacting in that space was so different, you know, and coming from a predominantly white space in rural, in the rural state, to then going to the city and in a predominantly Black space, that in itself was such a different pace, and experiencing that with someone who, you know, a friend who was white, and the friend looks at them and says, wow, I know what you feel like now to be around predominantly white people, because this is a new experience for me to be around predominantly Black people, a space that's predominantly Black. But even they were going through this moment of, well, I'm coming from rural to city, and this is a different experience for me. And so when we're talking about the healing, when we're talking about the empathizing, when we're talking about, you know, all of these different layers, not just within our country, but within our community, what do we need to make sure we're doing, the conversations that we need to make sure we're having to bridge those gaps between, you know, whether you're living in a country or living in a city, and so on and so forth. So loves, again, y'all know, definitely want you in this conversation. Call in, let us know where you're at with it, your thoughts on it. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. This is Happy Hour on WURD Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM. Taking a break. When we come back on the other side, we will continue another mental health conversation.
Dietz & Watson has been making premium meats and artisan cheeses for over 80 years. And when it comes to stacking sandwiches and party platters, they've got something for everyone in the family, like maple honey turkey breast, American cheese, buffalo chicken, and more. So get to your local deli and taste 4 generations of family recipes. With Dietz & Watson on the table, you'll have everyone coming back for seconds and thirds. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939. Support independent Black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com.
Pico has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. Have an old working fridge or freezer in your garage or basement? Pico will pick it up, dispose of it responsibly, and give you a $75 rebate. That's right, $75. Plus, you can save as much as $150 a year on your energy bill by getting rid of it. Just schedule your pickup at pico.com/recycling or call 1-888-5-PICO-SAVE today. Be sure your fridge or freezer is plugged in and working at time of pickup.
Word Radio Digital Tip of the Week with Stephanie Humphrey.
I'm your Tech Life expert, Stephanie Humphrey, and this is your Word Digital Tip of the Week. Video chatting on your smartphone is a wonderful way to stay in touch with family and friends, especially during this time. You actually get to see their faces and talk to them almost as if you were together. But video chatting can be a challenge if you have a different type of smartphone than the person you want to connect with. Your iPhone might not be compatible with someone else's Android phone or vice versa. When you download the Google Duo app, you can talk to anyone using any smartphone. The app is free to download and use and lets you video chat with loved ones as easily as you'd talk to them on the phone. Download Google Duo from the App Store on your iPhone or the Play Store on your Android phone. Give the app access to your contacts and camera, and make sure the person you want to video chat with has the app on their smartphone too. Get Google Duo today. Your friends and family can't wait to see you. Stay tuned to WURD for more tech tips and stay connected with us at wordradio.com.
The Word Digital Tip of the Week is brought to you by Comcast NBC Universal. It's Happy Hour with Sincerely Sarita right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
Is this the final curtain call? Did we win? Did we risk it all? Did we love? Did we love? If the world was to truly end, can we say we've truly been a friend? And did we love? Did we love? Let this ring all over the world for every man, woman, boy, and girl. Together we stand, divided we fall. As one we can stand tall. I can't do it on my own. I need you to be strong. 'Cause we are one people, and we can change the world. We can change the world. Together we are one people, and we can change the world. We can change the world. Can the price of life be repaid? If it's cut down, can it rise again? Our work's not done. Two pieces one. Kings and queens, don't be ashamed. Stand firm and be proud again. Can't you see that you reign? Let this ring all over the world for every man, woman, boy, and girl. Together we stand, divided we fall. As one we can stand tall. I can't do it on my own. I need you to be strong. 'Cause we are one people, and we can change the world. We can change the world. Together we are one people, and we can change the world. We can change the world.
You're back listening to Happy Hour on WURD Radio 96.1 FM 900 AM. I'm your host, Sincerely Sarita. Shout out to our folks who are calling in, our folks who are tuned in over on Word TV 96.1 FM 900 AM. Shout out to Roberta. She said, nailed it. This is a real tough time for me, having to sit and fester. My thoughts are very dangerous to and for me. And so, like that level of transparency is, I'm going to be real. We need that right now. We need to know where each of us are at in the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of this uprising, of all of this, right? Like if we're not having the real conversations, how are we supposed to get through it? And it's just something that even in this moment, that as I'm saying it, I'm also reminding myself of, because I think it's something like what we touched on before, of just that knee-jerk reaction of I'm good, or this is what it usually is, and so this is just how it is, and all right, it's going to get handled one way or another. And as much as that is what may come natural for so many of us, that also does not necessarily mean that it's healthy.
Yeah.
And so that's why, another mental health conversation is so important, because we can't get stuck in that mindset of thinking that way of dealing with things is healthy. It's just not. It's not. And shout out to each and every one of us who are committed to showing up for each other, to showing up for our communities, using our gifts, our talents, and our skills to aid the healing process. So, Kayla J, I know we're getting low on time and wanting to close this out. You go ahead, take it.
Yeah, we're getting low on time, but before we go, Elias has a question, so I want to get to Elias from North Philly. And, of course, we're going to have Jackie back next week to close this thing out. We may have to extend it an extra week. But, Elias, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? I mean, we can't talk much because you guys are about to close, and I wanted to get feedback from other callers. And I'm raising awareness that I am attacking the council members in the city of Philadelphia in regards to the 35-plus years that they have let all these type of stores, stop-and-go stores, beer delis, bodega stores, and allowing them to infiltrate and settle in only the black and brown communities. It's a disaster. It's disgusting. Every so few feet or another block from where someone's been killed violently, you see these stop-and-go stores. All these stores are a major part of perpetuating the drug epidemic, and I've been attacking the council leaders that look like us, and I'm just letting you know that, you know, I'm spreading the word out there. I'm trying to get group up with people to change legislations and ordinance, because these stop-and-goes and these beer delis do not care about our children and our community.
Yeah, Elias, I hear you, man. That's a good cause, you know, to make sure we continue to build our communities, up. That's something also that takes a toll on our mentees, our mentals, and our psyches as well, in my opinion, because you're used to seeing stop and goes versus grocery stores in your neighborhood. It sets you up, you know, to think a certain way. But Jackie, again, give us a little something we can think on and ponder on before for next week, and also let the folks know where they can find you at on social media in the meantime.
Okay, so we really didn't get to get into a little bit more about like that self-care piece.
Yeah, we're going to have to do that next week. Next week is self-care.
So in preparation for self-care, I'd like to invite people to think of what are your forms of self-care, and recognizing that boundaries are a part of radical self-care. And how do you shape your boundaries? What does that look like in your life? So just your self-care practices, and then also what are how do you determine boundaries, and how are you able to hold those boundaries? So I think that's really important in how we show up with each other as well, to know, here's what my boundaries are, this is why I feel this way, and this is why I need this for me. And I don't think that there's enough conversation around that as well. It becomes selfish rather than prioritizing your own mental health needs in order to be able to give to others. So that would be the reflection that I would offer.
Gotcha. It's gonna be another pondering week for me.
That's some work that some of us gonna have to do when it comes to drawing boundaries and saying, regardless of how you perceive it, it's what I know is well for me. Like, that is good for me, and that is not an easy. That's not always the easy task. And so please know, even in us having this conversation, that is not the assumption that this conversation is just going to unfold. You know, should there be any point in time where you have to engage in that conversation with someone you love, or, you know, whatever else the case may be, that's something that's going to be easy, I would think, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Jackie, but that is something that is necessary. And that you cannot downplay. It's like you got to do what you got to do, and in that sense, let the chips fall where they may. But knowing that you're doing what you're doing, not only for your own mental health wellness, but for that of the community that you are a larger part of. So.
Yeah, it goes into, you know, I got to put my mask on first, the air mask on, before I can put on somebody else's. So if I don't create that space where there's boundaries and I feel safe, I'm not going to show up in a safe way. That version of me may not be the most helpful version of me for the rest of the community. So yeah, definitely. And if people ever have any questions, feel free, reach out to me on Instagram. It's Sankofa Healing Studio. Also, the website is sankofahealingstudio.org. You can take a look at the stuff that I'm doing, some of the initiatives that I have, and reach out by phone or email. I'm always happy to have those discussions.
Loves, we are dropping that website in the Word TV comment section over on Facebook Live. So if you are looking for it, just make sure you go over there. You can check it out. Get what you need, okay? Get what you need because it is available to you. But this is Wellness Wednesday on Happy Hour on WURD Radio. Shout out to Kayla J bringing us another mental health conversation. We're getting ready to take this quick break. When we come back on the other side, we'll be welcoming our next guest, LT Ladino Bryson, CEO of vcandidates.com, which is a recruiting and career training platform. LT is known as the employment therapist, joining us to discuss whether including race in a resume is a good idea or not, and what companies can do to improve diversity hiring. So stay tuned for that. That's our livelihood segment here on Wellness Wednesday. But Jackie Johnson, again, thank you so much for joining us for another mental health conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, loves, we'll be back after these messages.
Weather and traffic to keep you informed for your drive home in the happy hour with Sincerely Sarita. Monday through Thursday, 4 till 7 p.m. Right here on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message. I'm asking for your support and to join our team. We need a leader to unite this country. We need a leader who will push an agenda to move everyone forward, to allow every American the opportunity to share in this country's prosperity. Someone who will lead, but also who will listen. Someone we can be proud of. I promise you this election isn't about me. It's about you, your family, your community, and our country. The moment has come for our nation to deal with systemic racism, to deal with the denial of the promise of this nation to so many. It's time to make healthcare a right, not a privilege. It's time to give every student the opportunity to get a good education, no matter what their zip code is. And it's time to give workers the pay and dignity they deserve. This is the United States of America, and there's nothing we cannot do if we do it together.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Want the latest in Word swag? Check out the shop tab on wordradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on wordradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk Media. This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently black. Talk Media. WURD. Home of the Happy Hour. With Sincerely Sarita. This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Wanna go backwards. Tell me how you wanna sit down. Tell me how you're feeling so tired. Why you all complaining now? Singing how you wanna go forward. You're willing to take the ride. Funny how the tune changes when storms come to turn the tide. Sometimes I wake up and dream that the battle is already mine. Yeah, I know that it will be alright because we're going to the other side. We're going to the other side. Can't you see how the waves they tumble just to show the signs? Can't you hear how the thunder I need. Hey, I made to shatter the shackles that made me afraid. Today, I worship the King that already paid my debt, so I can live my life without a regret. Ain't even seen nothing yet. Think you so sweat? It's just the heat I emit. There is no person to blame. I praise the hope in your name, and He is greater than all of my issues and shame. He pushes the judgment away. He knows what's greater and leads me to pastures and lanes that opening up to doorways. No man can shut to me. Understand? I've arrived. My future's measured for me to thrive. Sometimes I wake up and dream that.
You are back listening to Happy Hour on WURD Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM. It's Wellness Wednesday. I am your host, Sincerely Sarita. And, you know, just definitely got to shout out our previous guest who is joined us once again and will continue to join us throughout the month of July. Another mental health conversation with Jackie Johnson, social justice art therapist who specializes in trauma-specific treatment with marginalized communities using a holistic approach. You know, so appreciative for all of the insight that she is able to bring us, the tools that she gives us, all of that good stuff. Another thing that we like to do on Wellness Wednesdays, because it's not just about the personal, it's also about the professional. Right. And as we're navigating this pandemic, this uprising, we have to think about our professional, right? The level up aspect of life, the professional aspect of life. And so joining us for Happy Hour today, we have LT Ladino Bryson, CEO of VCandidates.com. It's a recruiting and career training platform. LT Ladino Bryson is known as the employment therapist, and she joins us to discuss, you know, whether including race is in a resume is a good idea or not, and also what companies can do to improve diversity hiring. So LT, thank you so much for joining us for Happy Hour. First and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, and thank you so much for inviting me on. As you can see, I am a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan. I consider myself a sexy Eagle diva, so it's really exciting to be able to talk to my brothers and sisters out there.
All right. So I'm going to give you that because I'm from Pittsburgh, so I'm a Steelers
Philly
fan.
fly, Eagles fly.
Majority of my folks listening, they're Eagles fans. And listen, PA, I love PA all day. So whether you Eagles or you're Steelers fan, it don't really matter to me. It do, but it don't. But you know, it do, but it don't.
Fly,
we all
Eagles
PA
fly.
All day. Steelers, here we go. But that aside, as the NFL got to get all their stuff together, but much like you know these sports organizations do, so too do like all of these corporations and businesses of all different sizes and whatever else the case may be. So let's start here. Given that we are in the midst of a pandemic, and that there were already challenges that were being faced specifically for the Black community, but definitely for communities of color. Can you just first kind of put into context for us how the pandemic kind of shifted or impacted the way in which communities of color and the Black community specifically was impacted when it comes to employment, when it comes to, you know, being able to level up in a professional way?
Do you know that African American women were hit the hardest with job losses during this pandemic? And that's because they say a lot of women were in a lot of jobs that might have been from a director and down. So a lot of these women, if they are single parents, that means a lot of families in the Black community have been impacted tremendously. You know, it's been so crazy, but it's a course correction. I think with everything that's going on, there is a way to kind of flip back that rug and clear out some of those things that we've been sweeping under. And I think when I speak to anyone out there that has been affected by the a layoff due to the pandemic, you have to still be prepared, because in February, we were a candidate-centered marketplace, meaning that there were more jobs than there were good candidates. With this shift, there are more candidates and talent out there looking for work. And a lot of people haven't even begun to start their search, which is ridiculous, because at the end of July, that extra $600 that we're getting, or a lot of people received, that's going away. So we don't want people to be caught with their pants down. And that's why what makes us different from the other career platforms is that we're here to prepare people. And I will encourage everyone to begin to prepare, looking for their search and really thinking about how to transition their skill sets into other industries, right?
Yeah, and so when we're thinking about, that transition period, or, trying to break into a new industry, or just stay in the same industry, maybe possibly level up, if that's even possible at this point. Right. Let's dig into the reality of this, and what race plays at this point in time, because we now have this intersection of the pandemic, of the uprising. We have communities that are we know we have to do better. We could have been doing better, whatever else the case may be. Are we better positioned as the Black community, right now, to be able to access some things? Or is it what's the approach that we should be taking right now when it comes to leveling up professionally?
I believe we have to all look at things from a very positive point of view. Yes, there is an opening and of opportunity for diversity candidates. And when I say diversity, I just don't mean Black candidates, because that word triggers so many people. It makes corporations and business owners get scared, because they realize maybe they weren't doing enough or doing what they said they were going to do. So now they're going to be held accountable. But diversity speaks to age, culture differences, political differences, as well as gender. So we have to now, and what I'm literally speaking with corporations tomorrow on a webinar, say, listen, look at what you've done well and what you haven't done well, and make that correction. You don't have to flog yourself, but you do have to invite more people to the table. And for the candidates, this is a time that you button yourself up and be presentable, because the biggest argument when I was advertising this webinar on Facebook, do you know I got so many people responding saying it's not fair, it's this, because they felt excluded from the word diversity, right? The word diversity in the corporate world now means Black. It was never meant to mean just Black. It was meant to mean women. It was meant to mean, people based on their age, as well as people of color. So it's very important that the people of color brush themselves off and brush themselves, into a place where they are positioned to get a really good job, because they have their resume reviewed. They've practiced interviews. They know where they want to go. Hey, 20 years ago, I was a record executive working at Jive Arista Columbia. And when I decided to make a transition, I had to put out 200 resumes. That was 8 years ago, right? But I was able to transition those artist development skills into helping people develop themselves personally in their presentation. We're going to have to be strategic to find out where our skill sets can take us instead of being pigeonholed into one area. So it could be a very positive result for us if we all look at it in that regard.
Got you. And when you're speaking to kind of brushing ourselves off, right? Even that in itself for me is what do we mean when we say that? Because we're even in this moment having conversations just yesterday, I believe it was, and in past shows have had guests on that are speaking to the Crown Act, for example, that has been really building momentum across the nation in terms of natural hair, specifically Black people being able to show up and, that the hair that grows out of our scalp and in such a way that it just is what it is as it is naturally, and still being qualified for these jobs. And so what level, if any, do you see that playing in this kind of new normal that we're
Yeah.
attempting to embark upon? I mean,
Right.
when we're saying dust ourselves off, I mean, is that not what we've always had to do? And if, you know, for whatever reason, if not, what does that look like now in 2020, pre, post, during pandemic? Like, what does that mean now?
For me, dusting off means that we have to get out of the lull, because a lot of African Americans and Black community, we have gone into a funk. Some people have gone into depression because people like to get up and work, and not having the ability to do so has really messed with a lot of people, especially in the Black community, from a mental point of view. Dusting off simply says, get a new attitude, look at yourself, see what you bring to the table, and be able to present yourself to an employer in your authentic self. I don't think that we have to change our way completely, but we have to be appropriate for the job, right? But we can still be our authentic self, because that's what they're inviting to the table, that they're able to embrace who we are from a cultural point of view, as well as being able to and engage in our skill set. So I don't, I know there's a big conversation about how far and what that looks like. I say that, whoever hires you, you have to be invested in their vision, in their purpose-driven aspects, in their product. You have an opportunity not to just go to get a job. You have an opportunity to go get a career and develop yourself so that you can move throughout that career. And I don't know if that's something that a lot of people truly have embraced. I was talking with someone, she was a VP of people at a recruiting company. She got fired. And she said, I got fired because I'm Black. And I was like, whoa, let's come back here and figure this out, because as VP of people, it's your job to diversify and change that culture. Did you do everything you were supposed to do? Did you have a voice, one? Because what we're trying to teach companies is that inclusion means I have a seat at the table, but I have a voice that's respected and valued. And that's what's been missing, I think, in corporate America and in America in general. They haven't been listening to what has been said. That's what these protests about, is because there's been falling on deaf ears. But when we have the conversations to bridge them, for example, I understand diversity really well. I'm Afro-Latina and Jewish. Okay, so having, Black sons, and I have to think about, how am I going to buy this boy a car? And he's going to get stopped because it's a Volvo. We live in suburbia, and they're going to think he stole a soccer mom's car. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's things that we naturally think about that other communities don't think about when they are approaching any situation. And it's time for us to allow them to come into our world so they can understand it. The moment I told some of my friends and colleagues, this is what I do instinctively as a mother and how I think and process things to make a purchase for my son, they were blown away, because they don't have that challenge, right? So if we're able to bridge conversations, if we're able to go in and look for opportunities where we know we're going to really thrive, not take a job, but really thrive and have stake ownership in that company, as far as we are connected to the mission, connected to being productive, as well as profitable, then we're going to be healthy and happier. Because all anybody wants to do is be fulfilled, right? That's the main thing people want at work, is to be fulfilled,
So when we're thinking about, any kind of job transitions or potential leveling up that many of us will need to do,
right.
When that comes to race, in the midst of this uprising, is it a good idea to include that on a resume or application to check that box, or not? Do we do that, or do we not? Because I mean, there's already been studies done that have shown that just based off your name alone, like I don't know too many people that, like, if at all, that include their race on a resume, but definitely their name will get judged. Like, okay, she's Latina or Latinx, or this is a Black person, or whatever else the case may be. Like, your name is definitely, just based off of studies, something that will be judged. So what does that mean for the way in which we approach our resumes right now, and what that means for how companies choose to approach their hiring practices?
I spoke to several of my colleagues that are recruiters like myself, and I've placed over 600 people. Never put race on a resume. And that's not because you're ashamed of anything, it's because you shouldn't have to. To someone to say, oh, here's a black candidate, that's not a good thing. They should see your skill sets first. I would say to any person out there, try to find a recruiter to work with, because we don't deal with issues of, people getting less paid because of their color or race or women or male. When I look at a job order, I'm looking for the best qualified candidate. And if the job is for $120,000, I'm going to find the candidates that meet the requirements, exceed them, and get that candidate $140,000. So working with the recruiter is actually like having an agent work for an athlete, right? For any company to look at a candidate solely on race, you're going to have problems on both sides, because you're going to have Caucasians looking and saying, hey, we're being left out, and that's a lawsuit. And you're going to have other people saying, hey, I didn't get hired because this, and that's a lawsuit. This conversation now is really going to level that field. And how you show who you are authentically is listing your sororities and fraternities, languages you speak, as far as your name. Working with the recruiter, we like to send resumes over and removing of name and dates, so that we're not getting biased automatically by culture, by age, right? So, the goal is to make the best resume that speaks directly to you are. I would basically say the best title on your resume, under your name, under your contact information, like I say, I'm the employment therapist, sums me up. And it speaks to a need that someone who's looking to hire me would understand who I am. Give yourself a title that talks to your experience. You say it perfectly. You're the Oprah of Philly, right? That speaks to who you are. So there are tricks and things that can be done that can beef up your resume, keep you authentic to who you are, because people are looking for you now. They weren't in 2019. But they are right now. So you want to make sure that is there. I would say it's more important to say if you're able to telecommute or do virtual, come into the office is more important than putting race, right? And I know my name is Spanish and Hebrew, and it's actually a prayer. But if it's mispronounced all the time, I just go by LT. It's memorable. And I don't have to deal with, me going, it's not what mother called me. It's really important, again, for us to look at us and see the value we have as Black men and women, and what value we bring to the table. And any organization that does not see your value, they are not the place you need to worry about being, because you won't thrive there. And that's what we're trying to get over.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely something that I think now more than ever, we have to be mindful about as we go through this uprising and continue to put our mental health wellness, our emotional, physical, financial wellness, all of these things at the forefront of not just our individual lives, but our community and our building
Absolutely.
up. So, for folks who are considering, potentially connecting with a recruiter, what are like 3 things that folks should be looking for when it comes to trying to find the right recruiter to help you get that prime job placement?
And that's a hard thing, because a lot of recruiters, they are swamped, they're overwhelmed, and you have to understand first, a recruiter does work with more candidates than yourself. And so there is an engagement that you have to understand. There's times when they're going to try to get back with you or not. You have to be patient. And that's hard, because you finally got someone representing you and you want something really quickly. You want to try to find a recruiter that works in the field that you want to be in. So if you want to be, director of marketing, but you're working just with an IT person, they may have some connections, but it'll be harder to get you placed unless you work with someone that specializes in what you do, right? On vcandidates.com, we have a lot of tips and blogs that can help anybody out that's looking. Our platform actually helps candidates create a profile, video, references, a personality assessment, your resume review, everything, and connects you directly to recruiters. And for your listeners, I'd like to offer them a challenge. They have the ability to go and sign up for 90 days And I personally have waived the cost of that. So we want to give people the opportunity to get buttoned up because it's going to be so competitive out in the marketplace that a one-dimensional resume is not enough anymore. You want to be able to show your personality. You want to be able to show who you are. And then we also have on our blogs free information. You've got to clean up your social media. You've got to post responsibly. You got to know what you want and how to get it and how to interact. And you have to make sure that if this is a position you're applying for, that's virtual, that you've got the laptop, the right internet, you're ready to work, and you will be able to self-manage yourself. And we give tips and tools to do that. So the goal is to help as much as possible. But any of your listeners, they can go onto our website. There's a banner. They can sign up, and we'll get them through. I will help them. My team members of coaches, HR and recruiters will help coach them, review everything, and we're going to get you connected as soon as possible.
Gotcha. All right, loves, if you're looking for that link, you really don't have to look any further than Word TV over on Facebook Live. I have posted the link over there to vcandidates.com. So you can go ahead, click there, poke around a bit, see if it's a good fit for you, and take the next steps. But I definitely want to take a moment, of course, to thank LT Ladino Bryson, CEO of vcandidates.com, a recruiting and career training platform, for joining us. She is known as the employment therapist. And, you mentioned the correct pronunciation of your name. And you may tell folks to just call you LT. I want to know, what is the full name so that I can either learn it or at least just know, get it right.
Okay, this is a great listen. It's called Lataya, and it is a Ladino name. I have two last names. Ladino is actually the language of Spanish Jews. So it means God be patient with me. And so when it's mispronounced, I've been called Latia, Leisha, Lydia, Latoya. When it comes to LT, LPET, everything. But it's just a really pretty name. And, I know that when people call me that, they know me. So it's really good. But even more, with Deshaun Jackson and his flub, perfect example. When we level ourselves up, we have to know who the players are that are writing our checks and respecting us and giving us opportunities. I was hot because, being, like I said, African-American, Brazilian, and Jewish, but I'm also forgiving. So I'm looking forward to my team. I know you Pittsburgh, but that's okay.
I'm based in Philly. I love my Philly folks, though, y'all. I love y'all. I love you. I just, I got my team. My team is my team. That's all.
Well, I'm hoping we have this. We're hoping we have this game here because I already got my tickets ready to see the Eagles and the Cardinals play.
Oh, just wear your mask, okay? Just wear your mask.
I'm going to be suited up. I'm going to be suited up, girlfriend. Don't worry. Again, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. If you ever need anything, I'm here for you.
Absolutely. And same. All right, loves. Our livelihood segment, shout out to LT Ladino Bryson, CEO of vcandidates.com, joining us to talk a bit about, how we can level up when it comes to our professional careers, aspects, all of that good stuff. You are tuned in to Happy Hour on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. I'm your host, Sincerely Sarita. We'll be back after these messages.
Check out the Source lineup on Word Radio. Mondays, get ready for the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. On Tuesdays, it's Andrea Lawful Sanders. Then on Wednesdays, it's the Black Women's Leadership Council. On Thursdays, it's a second helping of Andrea Lawful Sanders. And on Fridays, it's Tiffany Bacon. Don't miss the Source. Monday through Thursday, 1 p.m. till 4 p.m. and Fridays, 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. Exclusively on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you miss me from the protest line and you can't find me nowhere, well, I'll be 6 feet back with my mask on, and I'll be shouting right there. Yes, I'll be shouting right there if you miss me from the protest line. Now, if you miss me from the protest line and you can't find me nowhere, Corona may track us. I'll do the right thing. Shelter in place somewhere. Yes, shelter in place somewhere if you miss me from the protest line. Now, if you miss me from the protest line and you can't find me nowhere, got to go and register and vote on time. Yes, I'll be voting on time. Yes, I'll be voting on time. So now, if you miss me from the protest line and you can't find me nowhere, I got to go and register and vote on time. I hope you do the same thing. Yes, I'll be voting on time, folks. I'll be voting on time.
WordRadio.com.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
It's Happy Hour with Sincerely Sarita right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
On my face, or is it in my eyes? Cause I'm stuck up in this place. I don't know where you're leading me to go. Pulling me here, pulling me there. Can't take no more. What happened to being happy? That's what I ask myself. Over here trying to mask me. Who even is myself? Just my luck, just my luck. What you want? What you want? Just my luck, just my. What you want from me? What you need me to be? Oh, look at me. I'm just a little character. Go ahead, play me. I'm on strings, parachute. Do you dare me? Double dare me to say otherwise. Well, I dare me. Cause I'm restless and you're better lies. I don't know where you're leading me to go. Pulling me here, pulling me there. Can't take no more. What happened to being happy? That's what I ask myself. Over here trying to mask me. Who even is myself? Just my luck, just my luck. What you want? What you want? Just my luck, just my. What you want from me? What you need me to be? Oh, does my confidence offend you? Cookie color enough for you? Is my melanin offensive? Do I talk more than I show you? Tell me, do I meet the standard? Well, do I fit in the box or am I just too much to handle? No, I'm just too much to stop. Cause I won't ever let you in the way of me and only me. Still I rise, what they raise me on, I guarantee it. On my mama and my sisters, I'ma get there, I'ma win it. 29 years or 15 minutes, we going up. Trust me, my love. For me and for you, don't give up. Oh, just my love, just my love. What you want, what you want. Just my love, just my. What you want from me, what you need me to be.
You are back listening to Happy Hour on WURD Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM. I'm your host, Sincerely Sarita. It's Wellness Wednesday. It's Dubsy Dub, aka Women Crush Wednesday. So, either let me know how you are taking care of yourself, or, let's be real, trying your best to take care of yourself or your community. If not that, though, also, let me know who your Dubsy Dub is. You know, who is a black woman that's out here getting it done, whether it's in your community, in your family, in these streets, in these cubicles, whatever it may be, depending on what the pandemic has allowed or, you know, made possible. Call in 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. I mentioned a little earlier, my Dub was Tamika D. Mallory. She is co-founder of Until Freedom, which is an intersectional social justice organization. She's also co-chair of the Women's March on Washington, the march that took place in 2017. And she has issued the call that it's time to escalate. On Tuesday, July 14th, there's a nationwide call to take direct action. It has been 116 plus days since Breonna Taylor was murdered by the Louisville Police Department, and really at this point no one has been held accountable for that. And by held accountable, we mean not just fired, but also having charges filed, so on and so forth. And so Until Freedom is declaring that we must now escalate our action so that the powers that be know we will not stop until we get justice for Breonna and her family. And so if you're not able to be there on July 14th to take action, no worries. You can do it exactly from where you are at right now. You can call the Louisville Mayor, Greg Fisher, at 502-574-2003. You can demand that he fire the officers who murdered Breonna Taylor. You can call Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron at 502-696-5300 and demand that he charge the officers who are responsible for Breonna Taylor's murder. You can also call Interim Police Chief Robert Schroeder at 502-574-7111 and demand that he complete the investigation immediately, turn it over to Breonna's lawyers and the Attorney General. Steps that we can continue to take. If you live in Kentucky, if you're a resident of Kentucky, you can call your legislators and demand that they continue to uphold the folks accountable when it comes to the ban that has been issued on the no-knock warrants across the entire state so that this never happens again. And all of this, on this Dub Day being reinforced so that not only will we, cease our efforts in getting justice for Breonna Taylor, but that we also make sure that this does not happen again. And that's a long stretch, if we're being honest, and trying to ensure that something like that doesn't happen again. But it's a stretch that we all have to make and that we have to hold our country accountable for making. And in the midst of all of this, right, this uprising, this pandemic, today we have been talking about wellness. We've been talking about the different steps that we take to not only take care of ourselves, but of our community, of our families. And we be good. We be real good. We're talking about who got the tea, right? Who got the latest? Who knows the what, the this, the that, and the third. But tea is more than just gossip. Tea is more than just the latest details or, the need to knows. Tea in itself, in its most authentic form, can be very healing. It can be very powerful in the way in which we can ground ourselves. And so it's really my pleasure to welcome our next guest who, went from heart surgery to finding healing with the help of herbal tea. And so we get to welcome Felicia Harris Williams, founder of the Ginger Tea House, joining us for Happy Hour on WURD Radio. Felicia, how are you, my love? It's been a minute since we gotten to talk to you on the show, on Happy Hour or the lounge or whatever else. So how you doing? Oh, yeah, I think you're on mute. Let me see, because we over here on Skype, y'all. If you're on Word TV, you can see us both.
All right. There
we go.
All right. There we go. Because you guys had me mute. I was like, how do I unmute this?
How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right. We got these braids popping. Shout out to everybody, getting the hair braided up for the summer. So you ain't got to worry about it. The Ginger Tea House. I remember you talking about this and like, you know, low key, like I got this idea and this is the role that T has really played in my recovery. And like, now it's here and it's happening. First and foremost, how does it feel to have birthed this baby? Because you also just actually birthed a baby and marriage and like all of these amazing, just beautiful milestones. So yeah, like what is it like for you in this moment to have all of these things happening?
I will say that I have never been more excited to work than I am now. And I've worked on a lot of projects. I've worked for a lot of companies, but because this is a project that's so near and dear to my heart, I'm waking up every day motivated to work. The other night, you can ask my husband, I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning putting together packages to send out. And then I bounced back up, not like I usually have been bouncing up in the mornings, you know, with a newborn baby, but like full of energy, like my mind can't rest. I have more ideas and more ideas because this is an idea that I've had since my heart surgery, which will almost be 5 years in October. Yeah, 5 years in October. And so this idea has been brewing. And big shout out to my husband, Craig Williams, because he came along and he was like, babe, keep talking about it. We're going to do it. Like, we're going to do it now. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do it now. And he definitely was my motivation behind, you know, making it into a reality.
Got you. All right. So for folks who are not necessarily familiar with your journey in terms of your health, you know, I mentioned the heart surgery really quickly. Give us some context with how we go from heart surgery to herbal tea. Like what's the then and now?
So the snapshot is, imagine a young African-American woman in her 20s in the middle of the summer, well, really in August, where the heat index is high and the elevators are broke in your building and you have to walk up 7 flights of steps. And by the time you get up the flights of steps, you are out of breath, which you think is normal, but you can't catch your breath for over an hour and end up going to the ER just to find out that you have Wolff-Parkinson's-White syndrome, which is a heart condition that apparently you were born with and none of your doctors caught it. And you're now in your 20s. And apparently the heart condition has progressed so much that now you are at risk of having a massive heart attack and dying just if someone just jumped out and scared you. So you have to schedule an emergency procedure. And until then, you're on bed rest, relaxing. And after you have this procedure done, you start suffering with heartburn and indigestion and constipation and just all these other issues. And I'm asking my mom, like, why? Like, I was completely healthy before then. And she's like, someone went into your body and operated on your heart. Your heart is like the nucleus of your body. You're going to have complications. Like, you're not going to go back to being the same person that you were. And my heart surgeon at the time, was a white male, and when I had my follow-up appointments, he wanted to put me on different types of prescription medicine. And you know, initially I'm like, well, how long would I have to take this? And he's like, oh, for the rest of your life. And as long as you have these symptoms, you're going to have to keep, and this is the only cure. And I'm like, this can't be right. So my primary care physician is an African-American female. I was very intentional about finding a woman of color as my primary, and I talked to her about it, and she suggested herbal tea. She was like ginger, raw ginger root, tea leaves, you know, all different types of teas have different healing properties. You're just going to have to find which blends work for you, but tea can definitely help. Drink some before and after each meal and you should be fine. And I began my tea exploration journey. And it helped with more than just the heartburn and the indigestion and the constipation. But, you know, I also had suffered with chronic migraines before. And I found, you know, a tea blend to help with that. And, you know, more recently now I'm a mom and I'm like, okay, well, you know, you hear about all the different type of lactation teas. So I'm like, all right, now we got to get lactation teas because my milk supply is getting low. And I just feel like whatever you have going on, there's some type of blend of tea, some type of herb spice that can definitely help.
Yeah. Listen, first of all, thank God for your health, for your recovery, for your healing. You know, for you to get to this next step in your journey with the Ginger Tea House. Yesterday, y'all, you know, we were on the show and talking about, you know, how it was Blackout Tuesday and, you know, the different hashtags that were being used for that, and that you either had this option to not spend money or to spend money with a particular Black-owned and operated business. I chose to support the Ginger Tea House. So I got the hemp tea. I think it's like the turmeric, ginger, pineapple. Yeah, I got that. So I'm waiting for my shipment. I'm looking forward to it because I do have back issues and inflammation and like all of these different things. Arthritis runs in my family. So I'm very much like aware of just, you know, the importance of trying to find these holistic remedies to help with that. Cause I'm not a big, like, oh, let me go take some, you know, some kind of pill or ibuprofen or whatever. I really don't like that personally. Not saying it doesn't help and it doesn't have its place. For me, though, if I can find something that's a little bit more natural, I would prefer it. So I'm really looking forward to, you know, to sipping my tea and being great. But for folks who want to learn more about the Ginger Tea House, about your journey, and just these organic blends that you all are bringing to the market, what's the best way for them to do that? And what do you really want to make sure that folks understand about, you know, the Ginger Tea House? And y'all, that's ginger spelled with a Y, not an I.
Yes, that was the big thing. I want you to remember Y, not I. Ginger with a Y, Ginger Tea with a Y. And you can find us on any social media platform, Ginger Tea. And our website is gingertea.com. I actually bought the domain name like 5 years ago.
Listen, you gotta stay ready. You gotta stay ready.
Gotta stay ready. And so one thing I do want to let everyone know is that if you go on our website, there is a search bar at the top, and you can type in maybe something, a health issue that you're dealing with, and our website can recommend different tea blends that we have instead of you having to read through each blend. So for example, you can type in migraine or inflammation or diabetes or heart health, and it'll pull up the different tea blends that we have to aid with those ailments that you may have. Our hemp blend has been so popular. We just released 2 new flavors yesterday, strawberry apple and also chamomile. And
now you want I had to come back because I saw it on Instagram today. I was like, I just got the other one. I didn't know they had strawberry. I didn't know.
And the thing is, we have, some of our tea has caffeine in it, but we do have caffeine-free blends in all of our teas. So for example, black tea is known to always have caffeine. However, we do have a black tea blend that is caffeine-free because some people need to stay away from caffeine. And you can type that in the search bar on our website as well, caffeine-free, and it'll populate all the different teas that we have that are caffeine-free.
Got you. All right, so again, loves, that's Ginger Tea, GYNGERTTEA.com. You can go there to not only, you know, check out the different tea blends, learn more about the brand and all of that good stuff, but, you know, just to also copy, paste, and share the website information. I'm going to drop it again in our Facebook live stream that we have going on over on onWURD TV. But Felicia, you know, as we close out, what is it that you really want to make sure the Black community in particular understands about, you know, just the healing powers of tea, and just like, if nothing else, take in that moment of the day, or, you know, moments of the day to brew your tea, to kind of just be in that space and just, I don't know, just be.
So one thing that we've started doing, we've started blogging, and we're going to anyone who subscribes to our website or our email list, we're going to start sending out daily meditations and daily ways to enhance your ginger tea experience, because a lot of people purchase tea, they just drink the tea and they go about their day. They're drinking tea while they're working. And yes, it has healing properties in the tea, but for you to get the full benefit of it, you do have to make time and space to really let that moment brew, right? And so we have tea mugs, plug, they're on sale right now. That actually says
with the spoon.
Yes, we have honey stirrer spoons. We just released lavender honey as well. We do have lavender honey now too. But sometimes you have to let your mood brew. You have to let your spirit brew. And part of that is being still in a moment. So even like for me, it's hard for me to be still in the mornings because I have a newborn. So a lot of times, even if I have my alarm set, for some reason, she's beating me to the punch of waking up before her. But I'm able to find time for stillness in the evenings. And so that's the perfect time, to brew my tea and sit in peace and reflect on the day. Breathing, meditation, yoga, all those things. Well, the wellness journey isn't about what you consume. If that's all it is to you, you can just take a prescription medicine. But people have to realize it's a holistic experience, and that's what we're trying to bring to people. And so all of our teas, I hand package the boxes that everyone receives, and as soon as they open them, they're like blown away, like, oh my gosh, the packaging is so pretty. It's like you put so much thought and care into this, and it's like, yes, because that's the type of experience that you should be having. It's a thoughtful experience. And as people become what we call ginger tea lovers, they're going to be immersed into a community where we are teaching mindfulness, we're sharing best practices, and we're helping people really live their best lives holistically.
Have it, loves. All right. So the Ginger Tea House is now opened. You can go ahead and visit gingertea.com. Again, ginger with a Y, not an I. And start brewing up your mood, brewing up your best life, all of that good stuff. Felicia Harris-Williams, thank you so much for joining us for Happy Hour on WURD Radio. We're, I guess, going to take a quick break because we're a little over, y'all, but we had to get this part in for Wellness Wednesday, okay? We had to make sure you know about it because y'all, a lot of y'all be having the tea, but we got to make sure it's brewed right, hot, ready, and that is for our health and wellness, okay, not just consumption. But again, taking this quick break, we'll be back on the other side, and when we do come back, we're closing out the show, so stay tuned. Appreciate you. Happy Hour, WURD Radio.
JD's Auto Body and Painting is hiring talent for the following positions. Assembler, preferably 2 to 3 years experience, able to tear down and reassemble all make and model cars. Painter, must have at least 5 years overall painting experience, including experience in water-based paint and able to prep cars for paint jobs. Auto Body Technician, looking for an A or B technician, must have at least 5 years experience repairing cars. Please send your resume to JD's Auto Body and Painting at Comcast.net. That's JDS Auto Body and Painting at Comcast.net. Or call 215-848-5349 for more details. JD's Auto Body and Painting is an equal opportunity employer.
It's Happy Hour with Sincerely Sarita right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
You look at me like I'm unfamiliar, acting brand new like you never knew that you like them thick. I've been carrying this weight in a world beneath these braids, and I'm confused. Would you take the pain that came with all the parts you wanna claim for you? You want my thighs, you want my stride, but not this melanin. You want my hair, but you don't care for this complexion. I'm a black woman. I'm a black
You're back. Happy hour on WURD Radio 96.1 FM 900 AM. Again, shout out to Felicia Harris Williams of Ginger Tea, the Ginger Tea House. Again, ginger spelled with the Y, not the I. Okay, y'all, Ginger Tea. I also hear that they got some candles that's coming out just to complement the whole brewing experience. So I hear that's going to be dropping in a few weeks. Looking forward to that. But it's about time for us to get out of here. Kayla J, what you just saying, girl?
Man, I heard that song, and that song was really what I'm just saying. I'm a black woman. As we continue to heal ourselves, heal our community, and take strides to be our better selves during this pandemic, during the uprising, don't forget, you're a black man. I'm a black woman. You're a black person. And they got to take this melanin. They got to.
Or y'all gonna get all this melanin.
That's what the song said. They said you want all of this. You want our thighs. You want our eyes. You want our hairs. You want all this, but you don't want the melanin. But you got to take it. It's here. It's here to stay. We can't do nothing about it. So that's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm leaving it at that. I'm co-signing what Kayla J said because melanin is strong. Okay, it's strong, it's heavy, it's here, and it's not going anywhere. I want to thank each and every one of our guests for making today's show possible. Much love and appreciation, of course, to our girl Kayla J for holding down the phone lines, the boards, and everything in between, including another mental health conversation spearheaded by her. If you haven't already, follow WURD Radio across all platforms at onWURD on Facebook, at onWURD over on Instagram and YouTube. Check me out on IG and Facebook at Sincerely Sarita, SYREETA. Kayla J is at Kayla J, KALA J_music nerd. Up next tonight on Word with the rapping professor himself, Aaron Smith, as we get ready to, go on stride on out of here. Remember to taste your words before you feed them to someone else, and always, always, always empathize, empower, and evolve. Peace.